I want to talk to you today about a discovery, a revelation that did not come from a book or a sermon, but from a laboratory, the laboratory of my own life. For 100 days, I conducted an experiment. I declared war on the chaos of my own potential. I instituted a regime of non-negotiable discipline. Not for a week, not for a month, for 100 sunrises and sunsets. And what I discovered in that laboratory will change everything you think you know about your purpose. I discovered that discipline is not a jailer. It is a liberator. For 100 days, I learned that the greatest prison is not the walls of routine, but the open field of unlimited options and unguarded time. Freedom is not the absence of structure. It is the product of it. You see, potential without process is torture. A dream without discipline is a nightmare of what if. For 100 days, I woke up at the same time. I did the same things. I protected my focus like a national secret, and a miraculous thing happened. Oh, the structure did not confine me. It freed me. It freed my mind from the tyranny of deciding. What should I do now? It freed my energy from the drain of negotiating with my own excuses. It freed my creativity because it gave my genius a safe, predictable space to come out and play. I learned that discipline is not about punishing the body. It is about training the will. Your will is the muscle of your destiny, and a weak will is the greatest disability a human being can possess. For 100 days, I learned that small, daily, unsexy decisions are the compound interest of destiny. You will not become great through one grand heroic gesture. You will become great through 1,000 tiny, obedient acts of courage, done when no one is watching. You show me a person who is successful in any field, and I will show you someone who has mastered the mundane. But the greatest lesson, the one that shook me to my core, was this. Discipline revealed my true identity. It stripped away the fake version of me that was built on talent and talk. It confronted me with the man I really was. It exposed my cowardice, my laziness, my fear. And then day by day, rep by rep, it allowed me to build a new man in its place. A man of his word. A man who shows up. A man who shows up. A man whose yes is yes and his no is no. Discipline did not just change my habits. It rebuilt my character from the ground up. Your destiny is waiting for you. But it is not waiting for you to feel like it. It is waiting for you to build it. With the bricks of your daily discipline, the world is not waiting for your inspiration. The world is waiting for your execution. So I ask you, what will you build in the next 100 days? Will you build a monument to your excuses, or will you build the foundation of your legacy? The laboratory of your life is open. The experiment is waiting. It's time to begin. We are culturally conditioned to view freedom and structure as opposing forces. We believe that to be free is to be unbound, to have limitless choices, and to live spontaneously without the constraints of a rigid schedule or routine. This perspective, however, is a profound misunderstanding that leads to a life of quiet desperation and fractured potential. The 100-day experiment reveals the paradoxical truth. The supposed open field of unlimited options is, in fact, the greatest prison. When every moment presents a new decision, what to do, when to do it, whether to do it, our finite mental energy is rapidly depleted by the exhausting work of constant negotiation and choice. This state of decision fatigue creates paralysis, where the fear of choosing the wrong option leads to choosing no option at all, defaulting to the path of least resistance, which is often distraction or procrastination. Discipline, by imposing a non-negotiable structure, shatters these invisible bars. It liberates you by automating the foundational elements of your day. When you remove the question of should I work out or when will I write, you free up vast reserves of cognitive bandwidth and willpower. This liberated energy is then available for what truly matters, deep, creative, and impactful work. The structure of discipline is not the walls of a cell. It is the trellis that allows the vine of your potential to grow upward toward the sun rather than sprawling chaotically across the ground, never bearing fruit. It creates the protected space where your highest self can operate without being constantly ambushed by trivial choices and the siren call of immediate gratification. The freedom you experience is not in spite of the structure, but because of it. It is the freedom of a master craftsman whose tools are organized and whose workshop is orderly, allowing him to focus entirely on the masterpiece, not on searching for a misplaced chisel. True freedom is not the absence of a framework. It is the power to act effectively within a framework of your own conscious design. Discipline is the architect of that liberating framework. The concept of willpower is often misunderstood as a mystical force or a fixed character trait, something you either possess or you lack. The 100-day experiment reframes this entirely. It reveals that the will is not a static quality, but a dynamic muscle. Like any muscle in the human body, it atrophies with disuse and strengthens with consistent, deliberate strain. Every time you face a moment of choice, the warmth of the bed versus the cold of the morning, the lure of social media versus the focus of deep work, the ease of takeout versus the effort of a healthy meal, you are presented with a repetition in the gym of your character. Succumbing to the path of least resistance is like skipping a workout. It feels good in the moment but leads to long-term weakness. Choosing the path of discipline, however difficult, is a rep. It is the conscious, often uncomfortable, contraction of your willpower muscle. A weak will is not a permanent genetic sentence. It is simply a muscle that has been undertrained. It is the result of a life spent consistently choosing comfort over challenge. This is why it can be accurately described as the greatest disability, because it cripples your capacity to execute on your dreams, to keep promises to yourself, and to build the life you are capable of living. The 100 Days of Discipline was in essence a rigorous and consistent weight training program for the will. Each day, each no to distraction, and each yes to purpose added a microfiber of strength. Over time, what was once an exhausting act of sheer force becomes a manageable, then an easy, and finally an automatic function. The muscle memory of integrity becomes encoded in your nervous system. You are no longer a person trying to be disciplined. You become a disciplined person whose default state is aligned with their purpose. The strength of your will becomes the unshakable foundation upon which the skyscraper of your destiny is built. We are captivated by the mythology of the overnight success and the grand heroic gesture. We imagine that greatness is achieved in a single luminous moment of breakthrough, a brilliant innovation, a record-breaking performance, a masterwork of art created in a fever dream of inspiration. This fixation on the spectacular blinds us to the true engine of all monumental achievement, the relentless, unglamorous, and often tedious power of the mundane. The 100-day experiment systematically dismantles this myth. It demonstrates that greatness is not an event, but a cumulative process. It is the psychological and practical equivalent of compound interest, a single tiny act. Writing one page, saving $10, completing one workout seems insignificant in isolation. It is easy to dismiss, easy to skip. But these acts are not isolated, they are deposits. Each one is a small, obedient act of courage that builds upon the last. The first page makes the second easier. The first saved dollar creates the pattern for the second. The first workout, however clumsy, builds the neural pathway for the second. This is the compound interest of destiny. The returns are not linear, they are exponential. The initial efforts yield little visible result, creating the valley of disappointment where most people quit. But for those who persist, the accumulated weight of 1,000 tiny acts eventually reaches a critical mass, and a phase shift occurs. Competence blossoms into mastery. A small savings grows into financial freedom. A consistent practice transforms into a defining skill. This process happens when no one is watching, because it is in those private, uncelebrated moments that your true character is forged. The person you become in the spotlight is merely the product of the person you committed to being in the shadows. The mundane is not the enemy of greatness, it is the raw material. Mastering the mundane is the non-negotiable price of admission to an extraordinary life. We often construct our identity on fragile foundations, our innate talents, our past achievements, our social charm, or the persona we project to gain approval. This is the fake version of the self, a facade that feels authentic but crumbles under the slightest pressure of adversity, failure, or sustained demand. It is identity built on possession, I am talented, rather than action, I am diligent, I am diligent. The crucible of sustained discipline systematically incinerates this false self. It does not ask what you have, it demands what you will do. In the relentless daily confrontation with your own limitations, your talent becomes irrelevant if you lack the will to apply it. Your past talk becomes an empty echo if your present actions do not align. The 100-day journey forces a brutal and honest reckoning. It exposes your cowardice on the days you want to quit. It reveals your laziness when you seek the easy way out. It confronts your fear when you must push beyond your comfort zone. There is no place to hide. You are stripped bare before the mirror of your own expectations. But this painful exposure is not the end. It is the glorious beginning of authentic creation. Having torn down the unstable structure of the old identity, discipline provides the tools to build a new man in its place. Every time you choose to act with integrity despite your feelings, you lay a new brick of character. Every time you show up when you would rather hide, you reinforce the foundation. This newly constructed self is not based on the fleeting currency of talent or mood, but on the bedrock of proven action. Your word becomes bond because you have a history of keeping promises to yourself. Your yes is yes and your no is no because you have practiced the difficult art of commitment and boundary, setting in 1,000 small ways. The identity forged in discipline is unshakable because it is earned, not inherited. It is an identity of substance, not appearance. You are no longer a person who has potential. You are a person who executes consistently, and that is the only identity the world and your own soul can truly trust. The most seductive and paralyzing phrase in the human vocabulary is "I don't feel like it." We have been taught to believe that action must be preceded by the correct emotional state, that motivation is a mysterious external force that must strike us before we can begin our great work. This is a fundamental error that keeps destiny perpetually in the future. The 100-day laboratory of discipline proves that this paradigm is backwards. Destiny is not waiting for you to feel like it. It is waiting for you to build it. The raw materials for this construction project are not feelings, which are fleeting and unreliable. The bricks and mortar of your future are the tangible physical actions you take each day, regardless of your emotional weather. Inspiration is the world's most overrated commodity. It is the spark, but it is not the fuel. The world does not run on sparks. It runs on stained energy. It does not advance on brilliant ideas alone. It advances on the relentless, often uninspired execution of those ideas. The world is not waiting for your next flash of genius. It is waiting for your proof. It is waiting for your product, your service, your finished manuscript, your measurable result. Execution is the evidence that you are serious. It is the translation of your internal world into external reality. While others are waiting for the perfect conditions, the perfect mood, or the perfect wave of inspiration, the disciplined individual is already in the water, building the ship plank by plank. They understand that the muse favors the working mind, not the waiting one. Motivation is not the cause of action. It is its reward. The feeling of being motivated and inspired most often arrives after you have begun the work, not before. Therefore, the call to action is not to search for a feeling, but to pick up a tool. Stop waiting to feel like a builder. Start laying bricks. Your destiny will be found not in a moment of revelation, but in the accumulated dust and sweat of a construction site you visited every single day.